Alright guys, so Cyberpunk 2077, after so many delays, is finally out, and obviously this is not a review of the game because it's only been out for a few hours now. It is a first impression, my first couple of hours playing, what I think. And I'm just going to say now my history with the game, I guess. So I didn't really care for it at first until recently, probably about 2 years ago. And then I got super excited for it, and in the past week, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about it, and just been super worried about just the game in general, and how it's going to run, and the gameplay, and all of that stuff. And so that's what we're here to talk about, and I'm just going to say now, right off the start, if you like this game, if you want to go into this game with a positive mindset, stop watching this video. I'm about to rant for the next probably 10 minutes about how bad this game is. So after years and years and years of development and delays and all of that stuff, this game somehow manages to make Cold War's launch and Watch Dogs Legion's launch state fucking perfect. Look, they look flawless compared to this game, right? This game is so unplayably broken that it's not even funny. It's not like to the point where, you know, it's broken in the case of Assassin's Creed Unity, where people's faces just despawn. Well, that is in the game. And just bugs like that, bodies T-pose, stuff like that, and all that is in the game. But it's broken to the point where you literally just can't play the game. Right? And objects resort back to their polygon state of just blocks looking like Minecraft, playing everything. But the game, the frame rate, and it's not even just the frame rate, the resolution, the whole game looks like shit. It looks terrible visually, right? Now, if you're playing on an Xbox Series 37 or a PlayStation 452, and you're one of the 3 people that paid $4,000 for it, and the game runs fine, good for you. But I'm playing on an Xbox One X. That's pretty much as high as you can get without getting the new consoles, or playing on PC. And if the game runs and looks this shitty for me, you know it's worse for everybody else. And I mean, yes, there are small bugs, like characters' hair not loading in, again, objects becoming polygons, the game, you know, it's just stuff like that, but the game constantly freezes, and the frame rate, and just the resolution overall, the game doesn't look good. But more importantly, the frame rate, you know, 60 is preferred, 30 is fine, but can I get something playable, like 15 maybe? I mean, when this is my first experience going into the open world of the game. I've just finished the tutorial section, I guess, technically, and now I can go do whatever side mission I want. And so, let me just show you the first thing I see when I step out into the open world of Cyberpunk 2077.
Woman of the hour. It took you long enough. Took an appetite. Wait. What? You gotta take a piss?
And so category number 1, graphics and just performance, is terrible, like 0 out of 10 level. I refuse to play the game like this. I need an update now. This is unplayable. I mean, I've had multiple crashes, the game freezes, it looks bad, it runs bad. Let's move on, right? So you have bad graphics and bad just bugs all over the place, right? That already brings the playability and fun factor down of the game. Now let's move over to gameplay. The gameplay isn't that good either, right? And I kind of knew that going in. I didn't expect the gameplay to be this amazing, you know, groundbreaking thing. I expected the story and kind of the world to really take over for the gameplay, right? And that's exactly what it is, right? The story, well, not so much the story, because I'm not really deep into the story yet, but the world itself is interesting. You know, there's just one of the first mission spoilers where, you know, you have to go rescue somebody, and the paramedics come in with their freaking ship and dock, and they all breach it and stuff. That is cool. That is really cool, right? That would be awesome if I could see it in a frame rate that ran higher than 7, alright? The frame rate should be higher than my IQ. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright? It's terrible. You can't enjoy the world and just the RPG openness of the game, right? What you're meant to enjoy. You can't do that when it doesn't run well and it doesn't look at least halfway decent, right? I would honestly lower the resolution. I would take a lower resolution to up the frame rate to at least a playable level. And the part that sucks even more is, well, the gameplay isn't great, right? It's just fine, regular shooter. I would say it's even below average shooter mechanics, right? I think the enemies are a little too bullet spongy. You can be mag dumping guys, and I get that for bosses and stuff, and it's an RPG game, but I shouldn't be mag dumping enemies. I mean, this isn't The Division. But I was impressed, at least in the first few levels, with the non-kinetic weapons, I guess, if you want to go sciencey on them. The more energy-based weapons look and felt really good, but again, I couldn't enjoy them because of the frame rate. And again, a lot of the stuff I can't show you because there's just an obscene amount of nudity in this game, like unnecessary amounts, and you know what I'm talking about. There's no reason for it. They just have it to have it for shock value, and so I can't show you a lot of stuff for that reason. But moving away from the graphics and everything, I'll try to break this down in a more understandable way. So, like I said, the shooting is relatively below average. Sensitivity is kind of whack. I can't find a good standing middle ground. It's either way too high or way too low, but that's just something that I'm sure I'll get the feel for later. The hacking is alright at best. Again, I haven't played much, so I haven't upgraded the tree at all, but at least as it stands now is very bare bones and limited when compared to something like Watch Dogs, for example, that I literally just played and has significantly better hacking. But something, I guess, that I don't know why I expected it to be a bit better, but kind of fell flat for me was the driving. Again, haven't done much driving. The game crashes and it looks terrible, especially when you're driving. But it doesn't feel as fluid, I guess that's the word you want to use, as I feel it should. I feel even the most mediocre games that have very little driving have a very distinct, not only controller vibration feel, but screen shake and ground disruption effect that shows the visual difference between driving on different types of terrain. Right? I feel like that's just common ground now, and I don't feel like that's here. Right? I feel like the driving, just the shake of the car and just the turning doesn't feel right. It's too loose. It doesn't turn like it should. And again, I haven't drove any different cars. It could be like in a similar case to Mafia, where, the driving gets better as you go on. But just right now, I'm not a huge fan of the driving or any of that stuff. So since this is a first impressions, I like to keep this relatively short. And so the question is, what do I like? Well, if the story and the world, and I talk about this in a lot of other videos, and I'll talk about it in my Assassin's Creed video, if it ran well, it would be great, right? Exactly what we expected, or at least people I talked to expected, was that the world and the story was going to kind of take over for the mediocre gameplay. And if the game ran well and worked well, that would be exactly my review for the game. I think that would be everyone's review for the game. The gameplay is lackluster, but the story and world building make up for it. But again, without the graphics and the engine to even run the game, it's unplayable. And I don't know if this is something a day one patch can fix. I don't know if I've seen, games run this bad before and get to the point where I've played this little and it's been this unplayable. And keep in mind, I've played Watch Dogs Legion, when it launched. I played Avengers when it launched. And while those games did not run well at all, this game is far worse. And it can look good at times, particularly at night. And I found that recently, that we're getting to a point where any game that's set in any kind of modern era with lighting at night looks really good. With lighting, I think that's something that we just have down now. But daytime, the bloom effects are obnoxiously annoying. Like, Assassin's Creed does the stupid God rays, and Far Cry does it. Ubisoft likes to do a lot of God rays in their games. And they're over-exaggerated, but they're stylistic and they look cool.
Stop here.
In this, it's just too much. It's just yellow dump coming out of the sky. It looks terrible. But again, I'm trying not to rant about graphics for 10 minutes. That's essentially my problems with the game. Is it looks bad, it runs bad, and it's unplayable. If you haven't bought this game yet, do not buy it now. Wait until the game is fixed and it runs at a playable level, especially if you do not have a Xbox One X, PS4 Pro, or one of the new consoles, or a PC. If you have one of the original Xboxes or PlayStations, this game is literally unplayable. You won't make it longer than 3 hours without giving up. I only lasted about that long, and I have an One X. So, that's my first impressions of the game. Obviously, hopefully, that stuff will change by the time a full review comes out. But, again, it will end up hurting the game overall, right? If they completely fix this, I'm not the type of person to, you fix the graphics and you fix the FPS and you fix this and that, so, that never happened, 10 out of 10. No. This lowers the game a significant amount of points because this is a unplayable launch. This is probably up there with the biggest failed launches that we've seen in a while. And it sucks because if you look at failed launches, let's take something like Battlefront 2, for example. Right? If you look at that as a failed launch, and with EA, it's failed because of the lack of content, right? It didn't have enough. The game looked fantastic. It's probably was and might still be the best looking game that has ever come out on console, right? It looks great. It ran smooth. I mean, obviously it had bugs. Every game has bugs when it launches, but it had small bugs. The game was still playable, just had a lack of content. Kind of, depending on your opinion, with Star Wars Squadron. Same thing, lack of content. Call of Duty Cold War, a bit more debatable, but my point is, a lot of stuff is a lack of content, and that's the exact opposite problem here. If you gave this game to fucking EA, this game would run perfectly fine. It would be significantly shorter, and the world building would not be interesting at all, but the game would at least run. And now I'm debating, would I rather had a significantly shorter game that I can at least play? Because when I'm done making this video, I'm going back to Assassin's Creed, and I'm not touching this game until the frame rate is fixed. I have no interest in playing it. I'm not going to sit through a slideshow of a game and have to restart every 30 to 40 minutes with my game crashing. It's just not enjoyable. If I were to review this game right now, right, it would probably be, it would be my lowest scored game of the year. It would be lower than my lowest game right now, which I'm working on best and worst games or best and most disappointing games, depending on whatever I decide to do, of the year. So I kind of have lists in my mind right now, and so, I've thought about, okay, well, what was terrible, what was really bad this year, what ran well, all that stuff, and this would probably end up being the number one spot on the worst game of the year right now. Again, they can fix it, make the frame rate better, and I'll play it, but right now, if the frame rate doesn't get fixed, I'm not playing it. That's all I have to say. If the frame rate never gets fixed, I guess this is my review. I'll see you guys on the next one.